Greetings viewers, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we are back on the $500 Forester. I know you probably thought I abandoned this car or that I took it apart and was never gonna touch it again. I see all the jokes in the comments about, you know, the Subaru graveyard and Subaru's final resting place, but things have been going on, you know, had a bunch going on over the last few months, working with Habitat for Humanity, building that house, and you know, several other things going on. So now it's time, now that the temperature has broken, the humidity has broken, and it's a little more bearable to get outside and do some work, since I don't have the shop built yet. More issues. So one issue that we had on this, if you recall back to, I believe it was February, March, April, somewhere around the beginning of the year, we did the video on this where first off we found out that the timing belt was installed incorrectly by the previous owner and subsequently jumped time. Then we tore the engine down and found that all 16 valves were bent. So I'm going to be buying valves for the heads. I'm going to send the heads to my local machine shop. The dude that normally does all my head work does a really great job. Going to get him to fully go through those cylinder heads. And you know, one issue we had was that the time belt tensioner, they didn't install the time belt tensioner correctly, didn't torque it to spec. The bolt backed out and subsequently pulled the threads out of there. Luckily for us, Subaru's time belt tensioner mounting bracket unbolts from the block and you can simply swap it out. So I got one off of another blown up junk engine, no problem there. But you might also recall that the lower idler, the one closest to the oil filter on the passenger side of the car, they stripped that one out. To start the engine and retime it, I found a larger, longer bolt and happened to just put it in there as a temporary fix, but we need to go ahead and get this thing fixed up right, as it's, you know, in the block and it's nothing we can replace. We have to address these damaged threads. So that brings us to thread repair. We haven't really talked about that on the channel. There's two really well-known methods to do this, or kits, so to say. Probably the main, most popular name out there is helicoil. Helicoil is, well, basically what the name is. It's a helical coil of wire that you drill out the damaged threads, tap for a oversized thread, and then you take a helicoil, like I said, it is a helical coil of wire, and you thread it into the oversized threads. The inside diameter of that coil will be the same thread pitch as your original bolt, and you thread it in there, snap the little tang off that you use to drive it in there, and bingo bammo, you've got your threads fixed. Decent repair, cheap repair. Most helicoil kits are, you know, about 30, 40 bucks. So not too unreasonable, and you usually get 4 or 5 inserts or more with the kit. But we're gonna do something a little different. We're gonna do a Time-Sert. Time-Serts are a much more, is a much better repair in my opinion. Time-Sert is a solid steel insert that's threaded on the outside and inside. So basically with the helicoil kit and the Time-Sert kit, it's kind of the same installation. You drill out your damaged threads to an oversized hole, then you go and tap them. But with, like I said, with the helicoil, it's just a coil of wire. It's not very substantial, and the holding power probably isn't that great in comparison to the Time-Sert, which, as I said, does use a steel insert. On that steel insert, the bottom threads aren't fully machined. You have an installation tool that you run the insert in with, and that insert tool will actually cold forge the last 3 or 4 rounds of threads and press fit them to the inside of that new bore and lock it in place. We will be using thread locker Loctite to secure this insert. It's not specifically named in the kit, this particular kit, but on like their head bolt kits, repair kits, and spark plug kits, they do like to add a chemical along with the mechanical fastener for these inserts. So with that said, that's what we're going to get into today. We're going to repair the threads and install a Time-Sert insert on this lower timing idler pulley hole in the block. I've had people in the past ask me about repairing water pump bolts. I do have an old block sitting around with a snapped off water pump bolt rusted in place. So later on, we'll probably do a video on that as well. As far as I can recall offhand, I think those are M6x1. The Time-Sert kits basically come in this little box as you see here. I'll pop this open, we'll get the macro lens out, get a good up close look at it before we get to work on working on the hole. There's tons of kits out there, but let me tell you, these things are spendy. I believe this one kit, this one in particular, is for an M10 by 1.25, which is what we have for the timing belt, I keep wanting to say tensioner, the idler pulley bolt size. It's a M10 by 1.25. This kit was like 105, 110 bucks on Amazon Prime. Most Time-Sert kits are between 90 bucks and 100 bucks for individual thread sizes. If you want a bigger master kit, those things can run you $400 or $500. The head bolt repair kits and spark plug kits are between 100 and 200 bucks, so they're much more expensive than helicoils, but a much more substantial fix in my opinion. That said, let's go ahead and take a look at the kit, and we will then get to work step by step repairing the engine block threads that are stripped out. All right guys, so here is the Time-Sert kit itself. As I said, these things are not cheap, but the expense is up front buying the kit for your particular thread, pitch, and size. Once you have that, the inserts are basically the only thing you're going to consume, and they're quite reasonable. I bought several insert kits of varying lengths just because I wasn't sure the length of the depth of the hole we were going to need. So I believe each of these kits, let's see, there's a 16.2 mil and a 14 mil. These kits, you get a quantity of 10 inserts, and I think each of those were about 16, 17 bucks Amazon Prime. So very reasonably priced on the inserts themselves, only about $1.50, $1.60 a piece. This kit, I believe these are 20 mil length threads, and I believe that'll be what we need for the specific application, but we will measure the depth of the hole before we get into the repair. So quickly, this is what most of the kits come with. You get your oversized drill bit, high-speed drill bit there in a protective case. You get this little chamfer. It's got a dowel that aligns it into the hole you drill, and then it's got these teeth that put a chamfer on the hole, because if you look at the inserts, let's get one up here close. The inserts have this little flared lip, and that's what that cutter does. It cuts a relief for this lip to sit down in and to lock into. So up here we've got our tap guide or drill guide. We've got our oversized tap for the OD, outer diameter of these inserts. And then up here we've got our threaded installation tool that is kind of oblong. Like I said, you thread these on, it only goes halfway, and then you turn these into the hole. Once they bottom out, this will go through and forge the rest of the threads and splay these out and pin them mechanically inside of the hole. So we've got our instructions here, and basically it just goes over exactly what I told you about drilling the hole, putting the chamfer on the top, and doing the tap with the guide, using the driver to install, and that's pretty much it. It's not rocket surgery. It's pretty straightforward. So that said, let's go ahead and get into the process. It's going to be a little bit difficult to show you guys just because the engine block is in the engine bay and, you know, showing you camera angles, but I'm going to do the best that I can. All right, guys, like I said, I'm going to try to do the best I can with camera angles. It's extremely hard to get a good up-close shot of this with the engine being in the vehicle. We do have the radiator and the AC condenser, all that out of the way from teardown, if you recall. So this is the bolt hole that's in question. As you see, we've got the bolt in there and it's extremely loose. There's just barely any thread left for it to catch onto, and that is not going to torque down to specification to hold that idler in place, and we do not want to risk that coming loose and jumping our timing again and destroying our new cylinder heads once we have those rebuilt and all brand new valves put in. So as you can see, it's not even coming out right. The first probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 threads are ripped out of this thing pretty good. There's good threads deeper, but the outside ones are normally what's going to be catching due to the fact that the pulley is going to take up about that much of it. So we only have about this much thread actually in there to torque down to. And again, it's in aluminum, so you have to worry about it being softer. So that's why I like the Time-Serts, because you're putting a nice steel insert in there. It gives you something much more substantial for that steel bolt to torque to. So first off, we're going to take a very crude depth measurement of our hole. We do not want to drill past the depth of the hole already. We don't want to potentially drill into a water jacket, something of that nature, and totally wreck our block or cause us much larger headaches. So I'm just going to put this pin punch in here until we get to the bottom. I'll mark it with my thumb, pull it out, and then I will transfer this measurement onto our drill bit. Once I transfer it, I'll just take some electrical tape and tape it around the drill bit at the depth, so we know when we're drilling to stop when the tape reaches there, so we don't drill too far in and mess up our block, like I said. All right, so now we've got that electrical tape on our drill bit. So we got ourselves a nice little warning to know that when we're getting up on that tape to, hey, stop, don't drill past that. That's our maximum depth. So we'll go ahead and get this heat up in the drill chuck and go ahead and drill these old threads out. All right, so let's go ahead and drill out these old threads. Again, gotta be careful, wanna keep the drill straight as possible when doing this, and you don't wanna drill too far and, you know, cause yourself a headache. And there we go, easy as that. We're not taking out a lot of material, and we're going in soft aluminum, so it does not take very long to drill that out. All right, so before we move on, we'll just take our air blower and blow the aluminum chips out of there. All right, now that we've got our hole drilled, we can go ahead with our piloted chamfer bit and go ahead and cut that seat for the insert to sit on. It will cut until it stops, so there's not really any way to screw that up. You just cut until it stops cutting. Now that we've got that done, we'll go ahead and blow the hole out once more. Now that we've got that done, we can go ahead and use our tap guide, place that over our hole, take our tap, and start cutting these new threads in. Sorry guys, I know I'm blocking the camera, apologies of that, but this is where I've got to be to get this to work. Basically, I'm just holding the tap guide against the engine block surface while turning the tap in. That guide just helps make sure that the tap goes in the hole straight. We'll bring that out, blow the tap off, blow the hole out, get those chunks out of there, and run it back in the rest of the way. All right guys, real quick, I just ran it all the way in, make sure we're completely tapped out this hole. And we can go ahead and take the tap back out, blow it out one more time, and get ready to put our new insert in. All right, so we've got our installation tool and our insert. Time-Sert recommends putting some oil on the threads of this before threading it onto here. And then we'll put some Loctite, red Loctite, high temp Loctite on the outside of this before threading it into here. And this will be the end of this repair. Pretty quick and easy, guys. Before we do that though, we're gonna spray a little bit of brake parts cleaner down in that hole just to make sure there's no residue of any kind that will mess with our Loctite setting up. We'll flush the hole with brake parts cleaner and give it one more blowout with the air nozzle. All right guys, so I checked the application, and rather than using the 20 mil insert that comes with the kit, I'll be using the 16.2 mil insert and the extra inserts I bought with the bolt through the pulley. This matches the exact depth of threads. Plus we need a little bit of wiggle room past where the threads stop on the insert for the installation tool to fully go through and cold forge those ends before it bottoms out. So we're going to use the slightly smaller 16.2 mil insert. So like I said, I'm just going to go ahead and put a little bit of oil, just regular engine oil, on the end of the installation driver before I thread the insert onto there. Now Time-Sert has their own special oil in the larger kits, but it does not come with the smaller kit that I have, so we're just going to use some engine oil. Should work fine. I'll go ahead and thread the installation tool into the insert. Making sure not to get any of that engine oil on the outside where the Loctite is going to go, because then the Loctite will not want to set up correctly. And now we'll put a couple drops of red Loctite on the outside of the insert and get ready to do the final installation. Drive it home for good. So a little bit of red Loctite on the outside and engine oil on the inside of the install tool, and go ahead and send it home. Making sure we get it in there straight. And we are in there, and we have bottomed out on that chamfer that we put into the hole with that second bit after we drilled the main one. Then we'll turn the installation tool in. Again, it's going to cold forge the rest of the threads and push them out against the walls of the aluminum, and mechanically lock it in there, along with that Loctite we put in there to chemically lock it in there, so this threaded insert will not come back out. I'll just go ahead and run this through until it gets a little bit easier to spin, or till we hit the bottom. Hopefully it frees up before we hit the bottom, and I think we're to the bottom. And take it back out, the install tool should come out, and our insert should be stuck inside the block. Looks like I didn't turn it in all the way before time to take it back out. It wanted to come out. So let's make sure we're all the way through. There we go. Now we're all the way through. So it should be good and locked in this time when I go to remove the tool. Now we've hit bottom. I'll just spin the install tool out, and we are done. And there we go, our threaded insert is in place. Once that red high temp Loctite sets up, it ain't gonna come out. I mean, it shouldn't come out now just from the mechanical connection of cold forging, rolling those threads with the installation tool, finishing them out, pressing them tight against the aluminum, and we are done. Just as easy as that. All right, so just to check our work before we pack it all up, this is our correct bolt for that idler pulley. As you see, we got no wiggle in there. That thing is gonna be nice and tight, and we'll torque down to specification and hold that timing belt idler pulley with no worries of it backing out, pulling out of the block, or giving us any issues with jump timing. All right, guys, don't know how well you can make this out, but got the Boroscope down here where we can get an in-depth look at what we did. As you can see here, you see the chamfer around the outside of that hole and the lip where the thread insert's sitting, and then we can fly right through the threads of this M10 onto the back, and we'll get some nice, pretty steel threads in there. Not going to give us any worry. And then we can look as an example comparison. There's the original aluminum threads in the upper idler, and then the lower idler on the water pump, and timing belt tensioner, if I can find it blind, should be right over there. So I'll take some snapshots with the Boroscope and upload them into the video where you can see it a little bit better than recording off of the screen here. Well, guys, that'll do it for the video. As you saw, we quickly and easily repaired the threads better than factory. I say better than factory because I'd rather torque a steel bolt into a steel thread than a steel bolt into an aluminum thread. So theoretically, it is better than it was originally. Thanks to Time-Sert and their great thread repair kits. This video was not sponsored by Time-Sert. I did buy the kit with my own money on Amazon. But hey, Time-Sert, if you want to call me up and send me a couple more kits out, that would be great. I'm not going to say no. So, with that said, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next video.